we will say a few words about Lord Ram and Mother Sita, and what they did and what happened, and it's quite a story, actually. It's really quite a story. But first of all, let us say, first of all, let us, well, you can repeat after me. How's that? Yes, repeat after me, please. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Right, so let's see. We can begin, it's a long story. In Krishna consciousness we have so many long stories. And some of them are long, some of them are long, and some of them are long. Like in South Africa you have now, and now, which means now. And the others mean sort of, anyway, variations on the theme. Yes, so to cut an extremely long story actually short, or relatively short, Lord Ram appeared, and, well, he appeared with his brothers, and they are all forms of him. This is, one of the rather sort of esoteric sounding ideas that there is one Supreme Lord, but he appears in many forms, in really many forms, actually an incalculable or innumerable number of forms, but they're all one person. So here in this particular case, we have Lord Ram, and then his closest brother is Lakshman, but Lakshman is actually a form of Lord Ram. And then there's Bharat and Shatrughna, the four of them all together, but they're four forms of one person. How's that? You can digest that? Yes. Anyway, see what you can do with it, but give it a try, because that's what it is. Yes. And Lord Ram, after appearing and having an eventful childhood, of course, an eventful, like early youth sort of thing, then Lord Ram became married to Sita, who we normally address or refer to as Mother Sita, because she's the original goddess of fortune. Lakshmi, and many of you, particularly those of you from Hindu backgrounds, and just many of you, I think, you have heard of Lakshmi. She is the goddess of fortune. But Sita, Mother Sita, is the source of Lakshmi. In fact, first of all comes Radha and Krishna, then Sita is a form like an expansion of Radha, and then Lakshmi is an expansion of Sita. In other words, they're all these, there's the the Lord himself, who is one person taking many forms, but then they're his, we use the term consorts, sometimes his wives, sometimes, as in the case of Lord Ram, they were actually married. In other cases, not specifically married, but they have such a relationship. Yes, and wow, it gets very transcendental very quickly, actually. It's very amazing, and it's very beautiful. Very beautiful, very wonderful. So anyway, Lord Ram and Mother Sita, they're particular forms of, you can say, Radha and Krishna, but displaying themselves differently. We mentioned this the other night in one of the programs, I forget where, but somewhere, that Lord Krishna is kind of, you could say, very liberal. Yeah, he's very sort of liberal, easygoing. Lord Ram is very strict. He's very strict. I know we mentioned the other night that Lord Ram, he himself says that on any subject, I have one word, not two or three. Like, politicians, let's not get into it, but politicians. Prabhupada once was listening to a politician who was saying that, yes, well, on one hand, we may do this, and on the other hand, we may do that. And then he said, well, on another hand, we may do something else. And Prabhupada remarked, oh, he has become multi-handed. Not just two hands, he's got three hands now. But Lord Ram, on any subject, he had one word, and that was that. And he had one wife, and that was that. Of course, that's normal pretty much these days. But in those days, it was not uncommon. In fact, it was common, particularly for the warrior class, the Kshatriya class, they're big, powerful men. And in so many cases, or even most, they would have more than one wife. But, it is said that in this age, Kali Yuga, it's a difficult and even degraded age, that a man will be considered expert if he can maintain and look after one wife in all respects. So she feels just satisfied, completely satisfied. So these men, they had, well, Krishna has 16,108, but he's special. Otherwise, 2, 3 was quite normal. 4. Reason being, so many young men would not marry, but they would maintain celibacy and dedicate themselves wholeheartedly and completely to spiritual life. Celibate, no wife, no woman in their life. In fact, that there was such a large percentage of the population of the younger men who would do that you'd get all these young ladies sort of left over, spare, and what to do with them. So then, particularly the warrior class, they would marry more than one wife, and those, however many wives, generally would be fully satisfied. Can you imagine, ladies? Fully satisfied, with 2 or 3 husbands, being one of 2 or 3 wives of a particular husband. Anyway, those were the days. these are not the days. Like we said, Prabhupada said, a man will be considered expert if he can, in all respects, every aspect of the relationship, look after one wife to the point that she is just really satisfied all the time. No complaints. So one word, one wife, and for his enemies, one arrow. And these arrows are not just like, bows and arrows like Robin Hood or something like that. But these arrows, they are, well, astras is the technical term. They have mystical powers. And even like a Brahmastra, the weapon of Lord Brahma, has the power to destroy the universe. Way beyond atom bombs and things like that. So anyway, there was Lord Ram, and he married Sita. And then, again, it's a bit of a sort of a long story within an even longer story, that Lord Ram became exiled, sort of banished by his father. The day before he was to be installed, as in Sanskrit they would call it the Yuvaraj, or in English, there's a sort of a tradition to some degree like that. Prince Regent means this is a young man and he is going to become the king, but after a while. Hare Krishna, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki. Shri Shri Right, so the day before, Lord Ram was going to be officially installed, that he is shortly, in the near future, not distant future, he is going to become the king. So it was like a big public ceremony, and the particular prince would be installed like that. So the day before it was to happen, then, like I said, long story, but he was banished to the forest for 14 years. Not like indefinitely or just forever, just booted out completely, but for 14 years. Then he could come back. And Bharat, one of the other brothers, the third brother, in fact, he was to be installed as the king. Anyway, like I said, long story, but he refused. But he agreed at least to continue managing the state till Ram came back. So it was just Lord Ram who was banished, and Sita, his wife, was not banished. So Lord Ram went to tell Mother Sita, I have been banished, and, see you later. Padme Malenge. If you speak Hindi, bad Hindi. Anyway. So, but Sita, you know what her response was? It was not, oh, okay, see you later then, or something to that effect. Her response was, when are we leaving? And he said, well, actually, we are not leaving. I am leaving. And she said, well, no, if you're leaving, I'm leaving, and that's all there is to it. And normally she would do, not exactly do everything that he said. She would sometimes negotiate to some degree, but she would accept whatever conclusion they came to when they discussed some sort of family matter. But in this case, she just staunchly said, and just listen to this. Now, for some of you, particularly if some of you are sort of, I don't know what you'd be called nowadays, back in my youth, or my youth, later youth, you'd be called women's livers. Excuse me for that, but anyway, you might not appreciate this if you are. Anyway, if you get the idea. But she said, listen to this, her mood, father, mother, brother, son, and daughter-in-law enjoy their particular good fortune according to their pious activities, but the wife alone achieves the same fortune as her husband. Therefore, as you have been banished to the forest, I also am ordered to reside in the forest. For a married woman, neither her father, her own body, her mother, nor her girlfriends are ever her shelter in this world or in death. Only her husband is. There is no sin in me for which I should be left behind. That's pretty powerful, isn't it? There's no sin in me for which the appropriate reaction would be, I'm just dumped off. No. There's no sin in me for which I should be left behind. In all circumstances, shelter in the shade of the feet of one's husband is better than residence in a palace, in an aircraft, or travel through outer space. I do not need any instruction at this time regarding how I should act. Disregarding sovereignty over the three worlds and thinking only of my vow to my husband, I shall reside as happily in the wilderness as I would in my father's palace. And she sort of, goes on. It's quite lengthy. I just extracted a couple of pieces. And she concludes, clinging to your feet and being loved by you, I shall live in that wilderness as if in my father's house. Oh, please grant my request and take me along. I'm exclusively devoted to you, and my mind is attached to you. Without you, I would certainly die. In my life, now listen to this, ladies and men. Yes. In my life, I've never even mentally looked at another man, as do women who disgrace their families. Anyway, sorry ladies if that's a bit sort of too much for you. Well, such is life. You've got to take things as they come. But this is Sita. Now, of course, she feels like that. It's not just a formality, like, well, he is my husband, therefore I feel like that. No. And he is Lord Ram. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not an ordinary run-of-the-mill husband from Rondebosch or some similar, sort of not particularly significant place. Yeah. So the husband is just, we'll read a little bit more about it towards the end. I mean, he is just faultless, literally, and the perfection. He is the Supreme Lord. And when you have the Supreme Lord as your anything, as your child, like Mother Yashoda with Krishna, then it's said that Krishna with Mother Yashoda, Mother Yashoda would say that when Krishna is good, he's good. And when he is bad, he's good. He's perfect. And so is Lord Ram as a husband. And Sita is Sita. And with all due respect and great due respect, and you are just wonderful, and we think you are just wonderful, ladies. None of you are on the level of Sita. I'm sorry. If any of you were thinking along those lines, but what can we do? So yeah, sure. What level of person are we talking about? But then Sita was kidnapped. And you know, that's another one of the extremely long stories. That she was kidnapped, but she wasn't kidnapped. But anyway, today she was kidnapped, okay? And we're not getting into any question about whether she was kidnapped or whether someone else was kidnapped in her place. Let us not get into that today. We already got into it a little while ago, a few days ago. But when she was kidnapped, then Lord Ram, you know, the ultimate husband, the absolute, totally ultimate husband, to say the least. Wow. Whew. Did he get upset? Did he get upset? And, well, what he said, expressing his feelings about Sita being kidnapped, in the Ramayana, it fills 5 chapters. 5 chapters that how he feels. Well, we've got a little bit here. Listen to this. And as Sita was pretty extreme, was she very extreme, ladies? I mean, I'm not a lady, what can I say? What do I know? Was that extreme or what? Not extreme. Normal. Normal. Okay. We offer our obeisances to you. So anyway, but Lord Ram, my gosh, listen to this. If the demigods in charge of this world do not return Sita to me, in a short time they will see my prowess, O Lakshmana, because of the continuous network of arrows released from my bowstring. No creatures will be able to fly through the sky. See how my steel arrows destroy the world, creating confusion and breaking the bonds of propriety, with all the beasts and birds devastated or fled away, shooting with full force arrows. And these are not just arrows like Robin Hood. These are weapons, like these are astras. They have like explosive powers, extreme explosive powers. Shooting with full force arrows that cannot be counteracted by any living beings. I shall rid the world of goblins and rakshasas on account of Sita, because Sita was kidnapped by a, not exactly a goblin, but a rakshasa. And rakshasa means cannibal. Cannibal. Have you ever met a cannibal? I was trying to talk about it the other night. This artist in New York in the 60s, what on earth was his name anyway, I forget. But he was very proud. What?
Is it Andy Warhol?
Warhol, you got it. Thank you. Sure. See, I'm old, and when you get old, you become expert at forgetting things. So I should have known. I mean, I used to know. Andy Warhol, if you're familiar, if you've heard of him, from my youth. He was sort of kind of underground figure, but still very famous. So he was very proud of having eaten human flesh. And he would talk about it. Not very nice, is it? I remember first time I went to Namibia, it was Southwest Africa in those days. And you saw all these, I mean, not a lot, but some people with teeth filed down to points. Some of their teeth are filed down. And some of the teeth. And so I asked some of the people, why do these people file down their teeth? And they said, because they're cannibals. And it's difficult to eat human flesh. I hope I don't sound like I'm digressing. But then what happened was, not long after, I was in Amsterdam, somewhere around there, Holland, and I saw a bus go by with an ad, a big advertisement along the whole side for Save the Children. And there was this one little, kind of African, but they're a little different. They don't really look like South African Africans. This little child with a big smile and his teeth filed down to a point. And I thought, oh yeah, save the cannibals. Anyway, he was a cannibal. Ravana. Ravana means he who makes others cry forever. And he kept Sita, he kidnapped her first, then he kept her prisoner. I mean, there are different lengths of time which are suggested by different authors, but like almost a year, quite some time. And every day he'd go and speak to her and say, listen, are you going to willingly give yourself to me or not? And she would just refuse, point blank, on the spot. So after about a year of that, he told her, listen, this is your last chance. Are you going to give yourself willingly to me or not? And she, as usual, just said, no. And he said, all right, then tomorrow I will eat you for breakfast. And he meant it. It was not just being sort of some weird, tough guy or something like that. He actually meant it. That's what he was, the sort of person he was. And he lived in that sort of community of Rakshasas. So anyway, back to Lord Ram. I shall rid the world of goblins and Rakshasas on account of Sita. When my anger flares up against the three worlds means all the planetary systems in the universe. They're on three levels, lower, middle, and upper planetary systems. And all of the planets in this universe are included there. And we are on a middle planet here. We're on a middle planet. It's not so good, as you probably noticed, particularly with this Trump around. But it's also not so bad. I mean, it could be worse. Yeah, it could be worse. When my anger flares up against the three worlds, there will no longer be any demigods, demons, hobgoblins, or Rakshasas. Torn to pieces by the flood of my arrows, the worlds of the demigods, demons, and yakshas, as well as of the Rakshasas, will cease to exist. If the controlling demigods do not return Sita to me, I shall this very day, with my arrows, dissolve all the boundaries of these worlds. If they do not return my beloved to me in her original condition, I shall destroy all the three worlds of moving and non-moving beings. How's that? Is that intense enough for you? Pretty intense. Just reading it's really intense. And that's just a tiny bit of it, actually. Small bit of it. But that's the relationship between Sita and Ram. You know, we're talking of a relationship of pure love. Pure love. You know, impure means any selfish considerations. I want this from you, you know, and if I don't get it from you, it's a problem. Like in our relationship, it's a problem. So pure love means just whatever the beloved wants, I'm fully dedicated to that, fully, heart and soul. So that we call pure love. Now back when I was young, a long time ago in the 60s, there was a group called the Beatles. Did you ever hear of them?
Yes.
You did? Really? Did you hear of them? You didn't? I didn't think you would have. Anyway, no problem. You didn't miss so much, really. So, you know, I was a big Beatles fan, and the Rolling Stones and everybody else. And even before that, Elvis Presley to some degree. And they sang, the Beatles sang, "She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah." Did you ever hear that one?
Yes.
You didn't hear it? That's good. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. And with a love like that, you know you should be glad.
Yes.
I still remember it from, I don't know, 60 years ago or something. But what they're talking about is not this sort of affectional mood. It's different. There's some selfish considerations. Like, you know, one of the Beatles was George Harrison, and, you know, he had his ups and downs, but he was actually very close to our movement for years, right until he died, actually. And there, you can see it, if you can find it on YouTube, there is a discussion, he's being interviewed, and because the point that was raised was, you know, you had your wife, whatever her name was, anyway, I forget that, fortunately.
Patty.
What?
Patty.
Patty Boyd.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have reminded me, but anyway, you're from my era, something like that. So what happened to her was she ran off with his best friend, who was another very high-level musician named Eric Clapton. And George Harrison was interviewed shortly after that, not so long after that. And the interviewer said, well, you know, your wife ran off with Eric Clapton. What do you think of that? You know, what do you think of Eric Clapton? And George said, well, we're still really good friends, actually. We share things. We share the same wife. You know, these are contaminated relationships. Really contaminated, selfishly oriented relationships. And I was looking just this week, glancing on, would you believe, CNN. So it must be right. Anyway, I was glancing then, and there was an article which I didn't read. We would like to hear the opinions and feelings of those people who have been married 5 times. That's what it said. Interesting. So yeah, I was in Finland a while ago, a few years ago before COVID, And the Parliament was considering changing the marriage contract laws, because it's not just a matter of lovey-dovey, it's a legal contract. And to break it can be very expensive and drawn out. So they had, marriage contract which was for life. But they had such a divorce rate, it was like 50% or something. So they thought, we can't go on with this law because it's just not real. It's just not real. It's not practical. People are not living like that. So they were considering having a shorter, renewable marriage contract. And some suggested a 1 year renewable contract. But they thought that would be too short. And I'm not joking at all. And others were saying a 10-year renewable contract. But then some felt it was too long. So I left before they fixed it all and decided. But it looked like they were going to decide on a 5-year renewable contract. So after 5 years, if you want, you can just walk out. And it won't cost you 1 cent. And no pain and heartbreak, or, you're just out. Goodbye. So, but now we're talking about really different types of relationships, of pure love, no selfish considerations, and so anyway, it's something to think about, because it is an important part actually of Krishna consciousness, Ram consciousness, that we are trying in our small ways to develop ourselves so we become capable in real terms of having such a relationship with Krishna, with Ram, with God, and not just a relationship which is conditional on him pleasing me. That sort of relationship. And if he somehow or other he doesn't, then, I get all uptight about it, and I may just go off to someone else or just whatever. So the development of pure love, this is actually what Krishna consciousness is about. How to develop pure love and be capable of being in a relationship of pure love, which is not easy. When you're conditioned, old habits die hard. And the tendency to be selfish, look after number one, is really strong and deeply ingrained. And one day you may do better, but the next day you may just get caught up with some selfish considerations. But not Lord Ram and Mother Sita. It's a completely different type of relationship, pure relationship. So think about that. Think about that. And think about your abilities, the sort of person you are. So anyway, so they were exiled, or he was exiled and she went with him. And Lakshman, the brother, the second one, he went with them. And then a very nice little pastime. I want to tell you a very nice little kind of light pastime. This has been fairly heavy so far, hasn't it? A little bit? Okay, let me tell you a nice light little pastime. That when they left, they went off to the southeast. If you're familiar with Indian geography, they left Ayodhya, and one of the first things they had to do was cross the Sarayu River. And yeah, if you've been to Ioja, you would have seen the Sarayu River. It's a pretty substantial river. So they had to cross it. And you know, in those days, even though they had weapons that could destroy the entire universe, but to cross a river, you had to get a boat. And there's very interesting contrasts of different aspects of the civilization. So they needed a boat, and there was a boatman, and they got on the boat, and they asked him how much. You know, when you're in India, and you get into some form of transport, like local transport, it's always a good idea to ask how much first, not when you get to the destination, because the cost will have multiplied if you haven't asked yet. So they asked immediately, how much? And he, as happened, said, oh, don't worry about it. You know, let's just give what you can at the end, which is often what they say. But your answer to that is, no, tell me what the cost is. So anyway, there they are. And he said, don't worry about it. So they, okay, we won't worry about it. And off they went. Now they're almost at the other side. And Ram and Mother Sita, so now they have a little discussion. So how much are we going to give him? Got to give him something. And she had a pearl necklace on. And she said, let's just give him this pearl necklace, because we're going to be living in the forest, and not a hotel in the forest, but in the actual forest, under the trees. And I'm not going to need this pearl necklace. Just won't fit in. So Lord Ram took the pearl necklace, and they arrived at the other bank, and he said, look here, this is our payment to you, please take it. And the boatman said, no, I cannot take anything from you, and I will not take anything from you, nothing. It was free, the trip was free. And Lord Ram said, but, you know, I am a Kshatriya, warrior class, even in his case, royalty. I cannot accept charity. I'm not allowed to accept charity. I must pay. So tell me how much. And the boatman said, no. Because in this area, all the boatmen, we have an agreement. If one of us, boatman, takes another boatman for a ride on our boat, we don't charge each other. And Lord Ram's a bit puzzled, you know. What's it got to do with me? I'm a Kshatriya, royalty. And then the boatman said, and you, Lord Ram, you are a boatman, so I cannot charge you. And Lord Ram said, what do you mean I'm a boatman? I'm not a boatman. I'm prince, I'm a warrior. And the man said, no, you're a boatman. And the boatman said, I am a little boatman. I just take people across this little river, back and forth every day. But you are a big boatman. You're a very big boatman. Because you, on your boat, you take people from one side of the ocean of birth and death to the other side, to the eternal kingdom of God. So you are a boatman, and you're a very big boatman, and I cannot charge you, and I will not. And Lord Ram laughed. And the boatman said, however, I want to make a deal with you, is that just as I am not charging you for this trip on my boat, when the time comes at the end of my life and I get on your boat, you must take me across and you must not charge me. And Lord Ram laughed and said, all right, it's a deal. They won't charge him. There's a nice little light story. And, anyway, Sita was kidnapped, and we read those passages, and Lord Ram was just in this, it's all transcendental. It's not just like ordinary people sometimes, like in Gaza over the last however many weeks and so on. At least the reports say so many people were killed, and families, and husband was killed, wife was killed, or whoever, family members were killed, and it's a very shocking experience. It's really shocking. Imagine if it happened to you. So Lord Ram was really, really shocked, but transcendentally, spiritually shocked, to the point, as we read, he declared, like really strongly, if they, means the people who are controlling the universe, if they don't return my Sita, I'm just going to destroy the universe. And just like Ravana told Sita, don't surrender to me, I'll eat you for breakfast, Lord Ram was serious. If they don't give her back to me, I will destroy the universe today. Which he was quite capable of doing, even just, in a moment. In a moment. So then, again, it's a long story. Lord Ram he gathered an army. He gathered an army. Well, let me just tell you another thing as far as male-female relationships are concerned. I did mention this in at least one of our other programs a few days ago. So Sita's kidnapped, Ram is distraught, transcendentally. Lakshman, he's not happy, but he's okay, he's handling things. And who should appear on the scene but Hanuman, who had not been there at all in the story until this point. It's the first time that Hanuman appears in the story, when Sita has just been kidnapped. And Hanuman says to Lakshman that, me and my monkey friends, well, first thing was that he spoke in perfect Sanskrit. Anyone here knows Sanskrit? How well, what level are you on? They're 12.
Depends what district you're speaking in.
Huh?
Depends what district you're speaking in India.
My Lord. Okay. Hare Krishna. Later. Badme. So Hanuman spoke perfect Sanskrit. Yeah. And that was just his normal language. That's just what he spoke. It's Devanagari, the language of the gods. So anyway, Hanuman, that was living in that area, and he said, me and my monkey friends, we know the whole area. That's inside out, completely. But the thing is, so we'll find her. We'll locate her, no problem. But the problem is, we don't know what she looks like. So Lakshman, can you just tell us what she looks like? Because, they didn't have photographs in those days. Just tell us, what does she look like? And Lakshman said, I don't know. And Hanuman said, well, hang on. She is your sister-in-law, right? You have been together 24/7 for the last, at that point, say about 13 years. And you don't know what she looks like. Don't know. So again he asked, Hanuman asked. And Lakshman said, I don't know. And Hanuman said, listen, don't joke with me, please. I'm serious. I'll help you. We'll find her. Tell me what she looks like. And Lakshman said, I don't know. I've never looked above her feet. How's that? And then, as we mentioned a few times now, then he gave a very beautiful description of her feet, Lakshman, and the markings in the soles of her feet. And when Hanuman jumped across and thought he located her, but he wasn't sure, he had Ram's ring. But anyone can say, oh yeah, this is Ram's ring. But you can't disguise the markings on the soles of your feet. You can't change them, they're permanent. So then he looked at her feet and saw, these are the feet of Sita. Because he was afraid it would be one of the sort of the witches, or, they had all these heavy people, super heavy people. Yeah, not people who just can make ashes, as if ashes are cool, but people who can change their forms into something totally different. Like Putana was like a monster, sort of a female Frankenstein or worse. But she was able to change herself to look like Miss World. But not just Miss World who is very sweet and nice. Yeah, not some show-off or that sort of thing. So, yeah, interesting. So he was afraid of that they may try to trick me into accepting someone as Sita who is not Sita. So then, as we mentioned, on at least one of the nights, if you heard it, don't mind if I repeat it. Anyway, Prabhupada said repetition of a good thing is good. But this is a bit bizarre that Hanuman, now he's identified Sita in the Ashok forest. And, okay, now he can go back and tell Ram, right, she's there. I'm confirming she's definitely there. Because they weren't clear where she was. So now I can just jump back. But then he thought, let me have a little fun, get up to a bit of monkey business for a little while, and then I'll jump back. So he started smashing the place, the forest, smashing it to pieces. And the word got back to Ravana that there's someone down in the forest, that the Ashok Grove, and they're just smashing it up. So Ravana sent soldiers down to deal with this person, but none of them returned. None of them returned. So then he sent one of his big generals, and you know what happened, right? You don't know. Really? You'll find it interesting. So what happened was this big general came down, and he's one of these big heavy-duty warrior types. And he found who's smashing up the forest? It's a monkey. It's a monkey. So he confronted Hanuman. Who are you? Who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? Who are you? And Hanuman said, I am the servant of Ram. And now this man, he was being a follower of Ravana, who was really anti-Ram. This general was also very anti-Ram. So he started criticizing Lord Ram to Hanuman. Oh, this Ram, he's like this and that, and why are you a follower of his? And that was very unwise to do something like that in front of Hanuman, who is like, in one sense, the number one servant of Ram and dedicated devotee. So, Hanuman was just about to smash him to pieces, literally. But then suddenly, Hanuman was overpowered by a very strong call of nature. Do you understand what I mean? Call of nature. He just had to urinate like now. Like now, actually. Not just now, because that could mean after an hour or so. So he's got to urinate, and now this guy's sort of right on top of him and confronting him and shouting at him. And you can't just say, hang on a minute, I'll be back in a minute. Let me just relieve myself. So what he did, what Hanuman did, he urinated in the man's mouth. And this man is a big warrior. And he's there to fight with him and kill him, or try to. But now he doesn't know what to do because no one ever did this before. It's a new strategy in battle. Urinate in his mouth. So he ran for it, and he went back to Ravana and said, down there in the Ashok Grove, you know who it is, what it is? It's a monkey. It's a monkey. And Ravana said, okay, you killed him? No. Well, what happened? He urinated in my mouth. These are colourful stories in this way and that in so many different ways. Yeah. And when Hanuman jumped back to tell Lord Ram that, yes, she's there, I found her, then Lord Ram knew about this, and Lord Ram was not happy. He said, listen, you urinated in this man's mouth. He was a warrior, like very traditional warrior. You should have fought with him. Why didn't you do that? Hanuman sort of shrugged his shoulders and said, well, I'm a monkey. We do things like that. So I am, what am I going to do? I'm going to conclude momentarily to those who's unfriended, very soon. But just before I do, I'll read a few verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, chapter 10, the pastimes of Lord Ram, because there's some really interesting and amazing verses there. Let's just see, where will we start? Okay. So Lord Ram returned. He rescued Sita, destroyed Ravana. Yeah, and then they returned to Ayodhya, where they had come from. And there was Bharat. And it's well worth going. Well, you know what it's well worth doing? It's well worth going to Ayodhya, actually. But it would be well worth your time coming back later on, 6:30, as it's getting dark, and seeing our slideshow of Ayodhya, because we visit all these different places of pastimes there. And there's the place of Bharat, where Bharat lived. And it's quite an amazing place. Quite an amazing place. And this lotus pond, it was late season, but it was at least 2 or 3 acres in size. It is really big. So anyway, Lord Ram returned, and Bharat had been living as like an extreme renunciate, but managing the kingdom, but with none of the trappings of royalty at all. So when Lord Ram returned, then Bharat just handed it over. There you go. It's all yours. So here, this is now 9th Canto, chapter 10, pastimes of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra, verse 50, and I'll read just a couple of verses further on too. Agrahit asanam bratra pranihатya prasadita prajasvadarma nirata varnashrama gunanvita jugopa pitrivad ramo mani re pitaram chatam. Being pleased by the full surrender and submission of Lord Bharat, Lord Ramachandra then accepted the throne of the state. He cared for the citizens exactly like a father. And the citizens, being fully engaged in their occupational duties of Vana and Ashram, accepted him as their father. You know, in current day politics, I don't think it works like that so much. You don't think so either? I don't think so. But that's what happened, because, you know, as Lord Ram's relationship with Sita, it's completely pure and just simply concerned, completely heartfelt concern for each other's well-being. So when he ruled, that was his attitude, like a father, but like the same sort of father as he was a husband. You know, the same standard of personal attitude and conduct. And so the people who were devotees, they accepted him as their father, not just like the boss or someone like that. Yes, okay, here we go. Lord Ramachandra became king during Treta Yuga, but because of his good government, the age was like Satya Yuga. Everyone was religious and completely happy. Everyone was religious and completely happy. And Prabhupada makes an interesting point. Listen to this. Among the four yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, the Kali Yuga is the worst. That's what we're in now, Kali Yuga. It's the worst. But if the process of Varnashram Dharma is introduced even in this age of Kali, the situation of Satya Yuga can be invoked. If people take to the Sankirtan movement of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, they'll certainly be freed from the contamination of Kali Yuga, and the people of this age will be happy, as people were in Satya Yuga. Yes. So, Prabhupada's basically making the point that the same conditions that were there when Lord Ram was ruling, they can be here. And here's another verse, listen to this. And fasten your seatbelts, you're all sitting down, that's good. Because this will shock you, some of you, or will find it just amazing. When Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, disease, distress, fear and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. It sounds too much, doesn't it? To the ordinary mind, it just sounds like, too fantastic. It's too fantastic. But that's actually how it was. Because he is God. He is God. And he was ruling as if he was the king. And Prabhupada gives little purport. All these facilities existed because of Lord Ramachandra's presence as the king of the entire world. A similar situation could be introduced immediately. Even in this age called Kali, the worst of all ages, It is said, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna descends in this Kali Yuga in the form of his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If we chant offenselessly, let me repeat that. If we chant offenselessly, Ram and Krishna are still present in this age. The kingdom of Ram was immensely popular and beneficial. And the spreading of this Hare Krishna movement can immediately introduce a similar situation, even in this Kali Yuga. And 2 more verses, bear with me please. Are you okay? Are you awake? Are you alive? Are you alive? Yeah, okay. So 2 more verses. One, it's the next verse 54 describing Lord Ram. And the next one, the last verse in the chapter, describes Sita. So, Lord Ramachandra took a vow to accept only one wife and have no connection with any other women. He was a saintly king, and everything in his character was good, untinged by qualities like anger. He taught good behavior for everyone, especially for householders, in terms of Varnashram Dharma. Thus he taught the general public by his personal activities. And Prabhupada, in the purport, I won't read the whole purport, but just a sentence or 2. Being a householder or living with a wife and children is never condemned, provided one lives according to the regulative principles of Varnashram Dharma. Those who live in accordance with these principles, whether as householders, brahmacharis or vanaprasthas, are all equally important. And last verse about Mother Sita. Mother Sita was very submissive, faithful, shy, and chaste, always understanding the attitude of her husband. Thus, by her character and her love and service, she completely attracted the mind of the Lord. Of course, you know, Ram is Ram. He's not just some guy, you know, who some girl meets at the disco or at the bar, you know, at the pub. They're not that sort of people. Yeah. So therefore, for Mother Sita to be submissive to her husband, faithful, shy, very chaste with her husband, always understanding his state of mind and how to assist him, and sort of compliment him, compliment with an E. Yeah. This doesn't mean she's setting herself up to be abused and to have to join the Me Too movement, you know? No kidding, yeah. No, because he is who he is, the relationship was just perfect. Literally, just perfect. And in this way, by her love and service, she completely attracted the mind of the Lord. When she felt, she needed something, as every wife or female partner, from time to time, they feel they need something. Then she didn't have to sort of, well, you know the traditional term, henpeck him. Like repeat it 20 or 30 times, to the point that eventually he says, oh, all right, then all right, I'll get it for you. Not like that. But by her love and service, he knew if she feels she needs something, she needs it, and I must provide it. That was the nature of their relationship in so many ways. Very amazing, transcendental relationship. And Prabhupada says in the purport, it's very short, what is it? 3 sentences. As Lord Ramachandra is the ideal husband, Mother Sita is the ideal wife. Such a combination makes family life very happy. Yad yadacharati shreshtas, tattaveve tarojana. Whatever example a great man sets, or a great woman, common people follow. If the kings, the leaders, and the Brahmins, the teachers, would set forth the examples we receive from Vedic literature, particularly like this, the entire world would be heaven. Indeed, there would no longer be hellish conditions within this material world. So there you go, devotees and friends. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman.
Ki Jai.
Now, are we ready? Are we ready for Arti?
Yes, let me find out. I think the offense is on.
Just give
Yes,
us.
they are ready.
We're ready.
Yeah.
Okay.